Mitch McConnell has just went nuclear. He has decided to flip the switch and push the button on the nuclear option. By a vote of 55 to 45, all Republicans and 3 Democrats voted to proceed to final debate on the nomination of Judge Neil Gorsuch. Now, Gorsuch's nomination advanced shortly after Republicans had successfully voted to approve what's known as the nuclear option, changing the Senate rules to allow a confirmation of Gorsuch and all the other Supreme Court nominees by a simple majority. Now, imagine, Ron, if the Democrats had done that for Merrick Garland. What would the Republicans be like? I wonder. Bloody murder is what they would scream. Oh my God, I can't believe you destroyed the nuclear option. Or you destroyed the filibuster, you employed the nuclear option. How dare you overreach? Tyranny, tyranny. I wonder if they're saying the same thing. No, in fact, we had Senator John McCain saying, I can't believe we're going to use the nuclear option of the filibuster, and then he proceeds to press the button. Ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. So now I do want to put some focus on not on the Republicans. We knew the Republicans were going to do this, that they were going to push this asshole through. The real focus should be on the Democrats. You had 3 Democrats voting to destroy the filibuster. These were Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Manchin, and Joe Donald.
Of course. Of course.
Of course. Big surprise. Big surprise. It's funny, I did a Facebook Live earlier and I blanked on his name. I don't know why. I've talked about him nonstop. And yet the one time I wanted to remember his name, I couldn't remember his name. Isn't that amazing? I hate the way my memory works sometimes. But yeah, so those are the Democrats. The Democrats that voted to destroy the power of the minority.
Yeah, I mean that's the resistance.
The resistance.
Right? That's the resistance. The Democrats, they're resisting. They're doing their job in resisting Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee. I'm not surprised.
Good job.
At all. I'm not surprised.
Good, absolutely, great job. Yeah, way to resist, boys and girl. God. Now,
yeah, it's kind of comical. The only thing more comical than calling them a resistance is when who was it? Debbie Wasserman Schultz was saying how they're already a grassroots party. I don't know if you saw that.
I did a segment on that.
Yeah, she said we're already a grassroots party. Like, yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think AstroTurf counts as grassroots. That's not real grass. Just saying.
If the Democrats are a grassroots party these days, then Monsanto is an organic food company.
That's perfect, man. Perfect. So now, Mitch McConnell had something to say about this whole thing. He said, and I love this quote, "This will be the first and last partisan filibuster of a Supreme Court nomination." Remember that quote, guys.
Yeah.
If the Democrats ever get the Senate back, they ever get their head out of their ass and they actually run on progressive priorities and actually win, which seems very unlikely at this point, but whatever. And they decide, hey, let's put the filibuster back. Do you think that the Republicans will not abuse this to block a Supreme Court nominee if one ever comes up at that certain time for political reasons? If you don't think that's going to happen, you're living in a different world. You're not living in the real world. Because absolutely, like everything that they do is based on political partisanship and brinksmanship. It's amazing. Now, so you know the Republicans, if they ever get the filibuster back and they ever get in the minority, they're going to use it. They used it for 8 years. Unprecedented obstruction. So,
oh yeah.
And look, they used it against Merrick Garland.
And they took the pick from Obama.
Yeah, exactly. They used it against Merrick Garland. And, well, actually, to be fair, the Democrats didn't even get a hearing. They didn't get a hearing, much less a vote. So, I mean, the Republicans didn't even let it get to that point where they could filibuster. No hearing whatsoever.
Right.
Don't tell me that wasn't partisan. You can't look somebody in the eye, in their face, straight in the face, and say, no, that was completely not partisan. What, was Merrick Garland too extreme for you? Was he too much of a big lefty? Was that the problem? Did he not love corporations enough? Because it seems to be that he really did like those corporations. Maybe not as much as Neil Gorsuch does. But he was very center/center-right. But of course, they had to go and replace Scalia with someone to the right of Scalia. Again, Jesus. Now, I have some more quotes here. You have Senator Suzanne Collins of Maine saying, quote, some Democrats signaled on Thursday that beyond concerns with Gorsuch, they wouldn't... Oh, you know what? I don't have the quote from Senator Suzanne Collins. I'm sorry. I messed that up. Senator Jeff Merkley, who held a 15-hour filibuster, said, you know what? On the filibuster, we cannot unilaterally disarm, so we might bring it back if we get into the majority. And other Democrats have signaled, no, we're not actually going to put it back if we ever get into the majority. So who knows, right? Senator Chris Murphy warned that the change in the Senate rules would make it less likely you're going to have a centrist moderate nominee on the Supreme Court. Let me ask you, Ron, has that ever happened lately?
What, a centrist moderate nominee?
Yeah.
No, not to my knowledge. I mean,
really.
Most of Trump's picks are, pretty far to the right, and I mean, even like we said, even Obama's pick was like a center right person. So,
yeah. So we have not had this centrist, nonpartisan judges. They've pretty much all been partisan, especially from Republicans who nominate extreme conservatives. I mean, you have Scalia that was hugely conservative, very, very right-wing. And then you also have Clarence Thomas, also hugely right-wing. And, of course, Neil Gorsuch, massively right-wing, massively corporatist, on and on. There's all these examples. Look, speaking of examples, I think this whole thing, and maybe you can agree with me or disagree with me, this shows what the right wing really does. When they're in power, they will run roughshod over you. Simple as that. They'll abuse their power in the minority using the filibuster, which is what they did for 8 years. Then when they get into power, they'll abuse that power when they get into the majority.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't care. They only care about power. They only care about getting their way. There's no bipartisanship. These people don't get along.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I have to say, they only get along when it involves enriching themselves. So let's be fair.
No, I think you're absolutely right, man. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. That's exactly what they do. And, history has shown that, especially recent history. And the Democrats' response to that, instead of really, becoming for the people and reporting to them, the Democrats try to play nice and reach across the aisle, and everybody else gets screwed in the process. You have one side completely abusing their power at every turn, and you have another side that's so quick to roll over and play dead. So it's pretty much the game's tilted.
Yeah, it's always tilted in the way that it always has been tilted, in favor of those in power and those with the wealth, against those who have neither of those things.
Yep.
And of course, now there might be a silver lining in this, or maybe I'm just stretching, maybe I'm just reaching. You can tell me if I am. Basically, when they rammed through Gorsuch and when they rammed through whatever horrific nominee they might have a chance to put in, if, for example, Ruth Bader Ginsburg happens to, retire or whatever, or die, and if that happens, I don't care. We'll prop her up with a stick. We're going to play Weekend at Roost. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to prop her up until the end of the Trump presidency.
Right.
Give her some NAD+. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Something. Do some voodoo. I don't care. Keep her alive. But in case something like that ever does happen, you could see them ramming through somebody who's incredibly right-wing.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's a disaster. But let me get to the good part. Right? The silver lining. At least we could remind them who fucked up the country for the next few generations. And maybe, if they're lucky, if we're lucky, they'll never win an election again. I don't know. Again, that is a big stretch. And you know how forgetful the American people can be on some things, and how terrible corporate media is about reminding people, hey, this is the reason that your country's fucked up right now.
Yeah, well, we're very much the United States of amnesia. I mean, these days, we talk about how cute a war criminal is because he started a paint-by-numbers career. So, yeah, you cannot count on people to remember.
No, and look, the one thing, like, one of the things that really bothered me about the whole Gorsuch fight is that not once did the media really come out and say the truth about this. This is a stolen seat. You don't hear that. They didn't talk about this. They talked about how, he's very qualified. He's such a qualified nominee. I don't know why the Democrats want to block him. It's not about that. The guy could be Jesus Christ himself, which ironically the Republicans would fight against that too. They'd never nominate somebody like Jesus, a socialist Jew from the Middle East. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Who's not white? Come on. But no, it's about this being a stolen seat, stolen for Barack Obama. And nobody talks about that. And I hammered this thing. Like,
no, that
every
story
time
went
I
under the radar,
this,
man.
It did. It did.
It went
At
under
least,
the radar, and the whole time Obama was just promoting the TPP and stuff like that. I mean, it's...
Yeah, it was. He did not fight for his own nominee, and that is just another failure of the Democratic Party. Just like what you said, it's an absolute rollover.
Oh yeah.
Disaster. Sad.
Yeah, well, fortunately, they have good, strong leaders like Tom Perez that enable your confidence.
Oh yes.
That guy totally.
I'm feeling so.
That guy definitely has a spine. I'm pretty sure I think that Tom Perez. I think to get the DNC chair, you have to go through the same process that young boys in the Middle Ages used to have to go through to keep their voices as high as possible. I'm pretty sure that's the process. You just go there.
Ouch.
He's pathetic.
I think we got that. You're right. But hey, look, we do have to give some of the credit to the people who did filibuster. There were 45 senators who said, no, we're not going to approve Gorsuch. Go ahead and blow up the filibuster. We'll let you. And so, I got to give him credit. Bernie Sanders went and spoke on the floor. You also had, as I said, Merkley, who did a 15-hour filibuster, which was kind of awesome. So, that was cool. So, there's some hope. But not a lot.
No, not a lot. I mean, it's mostly just some lip service, so that you think like, oh, well, some people are quote resisting.
Well,
but
Bernie
really,
Sanders is.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
Well, Sanders is.
Well, of course, Sanders is, but Sanders has also been stifled by the Democratic Party at the worst possible time, and now I feel like he's being pimped out by them. And, the optimist in me is saying that he's waiting until after the midterms to really go start a legitimate third party. But the realist in me is saying he's tired and he's going to lay as much groundwork as he can within the power structure that be and it's going to be up to somebody else, or like or multiple somebody else's to kind of take that torch and run with it and continue the movement, which I think will have to be a third party.
Well, whatever direction, this takes, right now, what we have is unsustainable for the Democratic Party. We can't continue to, invest ourselves in a party that seems intent on losing to clowns like Donald Trump.
Intent and content on losing. And, I mean, they had an opportunity to say, are we the party of neoliberalism or are we the party of FDR? We got our answer. The answer was loud and clear and continues to be loud and clear at every turn. I mean, we used to think maybe we even had Keith Ellison in our corner, and then I think what happened was they took him into a room and, performed whatever DNC lobotomy they do, and now he's walking in line. So, yeah, I mean, there's still some good guys left, but they're few and far between, and they're not the ones with power. And, more people are cheering for universal health care than ever before.
Yep.
More people are coming around to, that we all have a lot in common as far as our needs and wants in this country. And I think that a true progressive party would be dominant for the next 40 years. If the Democrats, for instance, were to embrace single payer at this moment, right after, Trump care was the most disastrous idea that everybody hated, they couldn't lose. But they're not going to do that because their donors don't want them to.
Sad.
Sad.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.